Well, let's start. How are you feeling about retirement?
I have very mixed emotions about retirement. I mean, I'm equally happy and sad, excited and anxious. For the last 25 years, I knew where I was going to work every day. You never really know what you're going to do when you get there, but I had an idea what my mission was. And to not have that certainty, it's a little weird. There will be parts of the job I will miss, some I won't, but I will miss the people for sure. That's going to be the hardest part, is not being engaged with the amazing people, with the Fort Worth PD family, with the Fort Worth community that we serve. That's going to be really hard.
Take me back to the moment that this even became a thought of retiring.
I remember I told another former chief in a major city that I was planning on doing this for 7 to 10 years, and he laughed at me. And he said, I mean no disrespect, but he said, that's really hard to do, especially in a big city. I didn't understand, but the longer I was in the position, the more I knew what he was talking about. I think Eddie Garcia, when he was retiring, great guy, I love Eddie, good friend of mine, he put it really well. He said, a lot of people say when you're talking about the police chief job, it's a marathon, not a sprint. But really, it's like sprinting a marathon. You never have a chance to catch your breath. It's constant, 24/7, 365. So I'll be honest, I'm tired. I'm not gonna lie, my body's just tired, and it's the kind of tired you can't just sleep off. But for me, when I realized how much that was taking away from my family, that hurt, because my family's been so supportive, loved me through a lot of hard times. They've sacrificed so much for me over the years. And then I recently became a grandfather. I've got a grandson now, I've got a granddaughter on the way. And Scoop, I'm gonna spoil those kids. It's not even gonna be funny. But I don't wanna miss that time. I always try to be intentional about staying engaged with my family and my kids and whatever sports or activities they were involved with. But I did miss some things, and I don't wanna miss anything with my grandkids.
When you became police chief, did you make yourself a bucket list of accomplishments that you wanted to do in this position?
I did. There were several things that I really wanted to focus on. First, violent crime. We were seeing the highest numbers in violent crime across the nation than we had seen in many years, in decades. And the spike was the largest spike the FBI had ever recorded in year-over-year violent crime numbers. And our most fundamental job is to keep people safe, to make them feel safe. So we had to make sure we were taking care of violent crime. Not only does that keep our residents safer, it keeps the officers safer because they're not having to deal with so many violent criminals. That was number one. I also wanted to work on some innovative ideas, things we could do to push the profession forward, to make sure we're not just happy where we are, we always need to be better, 1% better every single day. I wanted to make sure we continued the efforts that we really saw under my predecessor, Ed Krause, when he was chief of the Fort Worth Police Department, to focus on that community engagement. And not only does that build relationships we need to be able to do our jobs well, I believe it makes everyone safer. When you have a community that loves and respects their department, you see less tension, you see less opportunities for violence, you see people who get along and have that same mission of making Fort Worth as safe as it possibly can be.
What would you name your biggest success as chief?
Oh, that's, as far as any success, I've said this before and I want to say it again. Any success I've ever had, it's not been because of me, because I'm smarter than anyone or better than anyone. It's been the grace and blessings of God and the people He's put around me. And my whole life I've been surrounded by amazing people, and that's absolutely true at the Fort Worth Police Department. I work with the best people in the world. Our officers are absolutely incredible. Our professional staff working behind the scenes, our volunteers, everything that's gone well in this department, all glory goes to God, all credit goes to the team, the Fort Worth PD family that's getting the job done. When I think about one thing that I'm most proud of, that's hard to say. I think what I'm most proud of is just the work I see officers do every single day. The way they give of themselves, the way they sacrifice time with their families, the way that they're willing to put themselves in harm's way to protect people they don't even know. To see the way they perform, I consider that the department's greatest success in my time.
Is there anything that you wanted to do that you didn't get to do as chief?
I will say Fort Worth is very different than other large cities across the country. We are very fortunate in the support we receive from our city leaders, our mayor and council, the city manager's office. We are very fortunate in the support we get from our community members. And because of that support, I can't say there's nothing we were not able to address. The numbers for violent crime, for instance, have improved. Once we started our violent crime initiative in 2021, homicides have come down double digits every single year, including this last year. That's because of the great work that's going on. But even though the numbers have decreased, one person being murdered is too many. So the job's not done. I didn't achieve a 0 homicide rate. So I feel there's obviously more work to do there, and that's with any crime. We would love to see 0 crimes. Now that's not going to happen, unfortunately, but the job is never going to be done. I'm always going to feel like there's more left to do, more that needs to be accomplished. But what I realize is the department's going to go on without me. I have no doubt the city is going to make sure they hire the next person, this man or woman that steps in to do an incredible job, better than I ever even imagined. And my leaving doesn't mean those things will never be accomplished, that the good work doesn't continue, because we have thousands of other people with the Forward PD family that are still going to be out there doing the job.
We can't talk without talking about Atatiana Jefferson. That didn't start under your watch, but you came in at a time when that case made headlines again and again. What was your biggest takeaway from the Atatiana Jefferson case?
My biggest takeaway was how tenuous community relations can be. Again, my predecessor, Ed Krause, gave the example of ants working so hard to build an ant mound, and they build a huge mound. It's beautiful. And all it takes is one person to come with a water hose and wash it all away, and you're starting over. And the thing is, it could take 100 positive interactions with the community to build trust, but it can go away with one bad interaction. The trust takes months, if not years, to build, but overnight you can lose that. The other side of that coin, though, Scoop, is if you look at where we are right now with police-community relations. That was one of the most difficult times in the history of Fort Worth as far as police-community relations are concerned. But we as a city, not moving past it as in forgetting it, Tatiana, but we moved past the frustration, the tension. We moved to a place where we are like a family again, the police and the community, and it's only getting better. It shows the resilience of Fort Worth.
Can you explain to me what it feels like to lose one of your officers in the line of duty? Unfortunately, that happened under your watch more than once.
The hardest thing for me, and I think for any chief, is burying an officer. And we've lost them in the line of duty, and we've lost some officers who were not on the job when it happened. And I'm talking people I know, people that are part of our family. And having to look into the eyes of a wife, a son, a daughter, and know there's nothing you can say. There's nothing you can do to take that pain away. It's very helpless, because I feel like that's my job. I need to take it away, and I can't. But I learned it's just showing up. It's just being there. You don't even have to say anything. Just be there. But it's not just with the family. It's with my officers, because we lost brothers. I mean, we really see each other that way. By far, the hardest part of being a job, and that I didn't mention this earlier, one of my goals was not having to bury an officer. Mm-hmm. I failed. It happened. I can't take it back. That's something that will be with me the rest of my life. That was on my watch. So, yeah, that's the hardest thing I've had to deal with as chief.
If you had to write a letter to the next chief and leave it on the chief's desk, what would be at the top of that letter?
Careful what you wish for. No, my encouragement would be to, here's what would be at the top of that. When I was first announced, or maybe even right before I was announced as the next chief, I go to my parents often for wisdom, for prayer, and my mother pulled out her Bible and she quoted a scripture from Esther. And she said, "I believe God put you here for such a time as this." That's what I would tell the next chief. I believe God put you here for such a time as this. And one of the traditions we've started at the Fort Worth Police Department. It was started by Bishop Kenneth Spears, an amazing man in Fort Worth. When Ed Krause became chief, he gave him a Maxwell Leadership Bible. A lot of great lessons on leadership that are scripturally based. So Ed Krause bought me one when I became chief. I'm going to do the same thing for the next chief, purchase one of those Bibles for them. As long as that person focuses on the people, meaning first the people in the department who have to do the job every day, focus on the communities that we serve, and doing the job with integrity, with humility, being a courageous chief who will make those hard decisions, taking care of him or herself, because this job will take a toll on you, that person will be successful. As long as their hearts and head are in the right place, they can be amazingly successful. But that would be the top of that, the scripture from Esther. God put you here for such a time as this.
Wow. I've gotten calls and text messages and pictures from people in the community saying, guess who showed up to our family funeral? Guess who showed up to our vigil? And I can't guess who. They say, it's Chief Noakes. Why do you do that?
Because it's important. And it's important to do it without cameras or fanfare. If it appears it's not genuine, you're just trying to get some good press, then your efforts will be revealed for just that. It's important to show up just not as chief, but as Neil, as a member of the community who's somebody who really cares. And I've tried to set that example so other officers may take the cue and do the same themselves. And just recently, we had a community member, great guy, love him to death. He and his wife lost a baby. Very tragic situation. Obviously, they were struggling. They had a graveside service for their baby, their little angel. And when I got there and walked up to the graveside, it was first of all very sad because the coffin was about this big, and that really makes it real. But then I looked around at those present, of any group that could be represented there to honor and support this family. There were more Fort Worth police officers than anyone else. No cameras, no reporters, nobody took pictures to post on social media. They were just there to support. That's amazing stuff.
Yeah. When you sat down with your family, your wife, to talk about retiring, what was that like?
You know, it was she was the same as she's always been, completely supportive. She said, I will support your decision, whatever you decide to do. She didn't try to pressure me to stay. She didn't try to pressure me to leave. We talked about the pros and cons. We talked about the family. And she's always been great about keeping me in line. And when I say that, here's what I mean. I told her, you got to kind of be my barometer. Let me know when the pressure's getting to me. Let me know when I'm not present enough at home, because I may not see that because I'm so focused on the job. Well, at one point she did. She said, Neil, you really need to be home a little more. Kids are missing you. I'm missing you. So I started making an effort to be more present at home, maybe come home a little early one day if possible, because there's a lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings, so I got more intentional about that. I asked her one day, I said, okay, I'm here more, is that improved? And she said, thank you very much for doing that, I have noticed it. But she said, Neil, what you don't know is even when you're here, you're not here. Either I had my laptop in my lap while we're trying to have some kind of family event, phones constantly, one or the other, going off. And even if I had no technological device anywhere near me, my mind was elsewhere. It was on the job. It was on a decision I made, a decision I have coming up, something an officer or their family's going through. I was never really present the way I needed to be. And through talking through how things are going and what we have going on in our family right now, we both agreed this was the right decision and the right time.
There are times when, unfortunately, you have to discipline officers because of their behavior.
Right.
What is that like, and what is your message as you leave this department to those officers that are being held to a higher standard because they are officers?
They're being held to a higher standard not just because they're officers, they're Fort Worth Police Department officers. And not only do we expect more of officers in general as a society, I expect more of officers of Fort Worth Police Department. We are, maybe this sounds a little narcissistic, but we're kind of a flagship department in the area. We are the ones that some look to see how to get things done. And don't get me wrong, we look to all those other agencies for the same thing. Fort Worth is the best department in the world in my department, bar none. It's not even close. And I believe that not because I'm the chief, but because of the work I see officers doing every day. Because again, our professional staff, the work everyone is doing. What I hope people realize is when I make decisions, it's not based on political influence. It's not based on anything City Hall saying. It's not based on community, anyone. I take the facts I have at the time and I make what I believe to be the right decision. Not to please anyone, because one of the things I found out very early on as chief, every decision I make is going to frustrate someone. Doesn't matter what it is. I can't make everyone happy with any decision. So I have to make sure when I make those decisions, it's something that I can live with. I have to make sure I can sleep that night, because you lose a lot of sleep over those decisions. And even if it's never an easy decision, but even if it's a clear decision, it's obvious, okay, this conduct is completely unacceptable. This officer has to face some kind of discipline, be held accountable. We have to hold ourselves accountable. Even then it's hard, because not only is it affecting that officer and potentially their career, it's affecting their family, it's affecting all their loved ones. And being a police officer is not just a job, this is a calling. And it's like taking away part of someone's identity. In some cases, the biggest part of their identity. So no matter how clear the decision may be, it's never easy, and it never should be.
Yeah. Policing is totally different from when you started. For someone that's going into the academy right now, they've made that decision. What does Chief Noakes say to them?
You know, I'll actually tell them oftentimes at the academy graduations, because everybody wants to know what the chief expects. I tell them I expect their best, and I expect it every single day. You're not going to have 100% every day, but bring me 100% of what you got. And you know what, if you need the day off because maybe you've been going through some traumatic things, maybe you need to do that. Take advantage of the resources that we have. Reach out to our wellness unit. Get the resources that they can provide to you, or resources they can connect you to, like AWA, the American Warrior Association, the R3 program, Respond, Restore, Resolve, where we're really investing in officers' health and resilience. I let them know it's okay to not be okay. They're going to see things that no human being should see, and oftentimes see it over and over and over again. What I want them to know is that we are here to support them. We do have their backs. They go out and do the job the right way. They go out there and serve professionally and personably, courageously and compassionately. They go out and do their jobs like the champs I know that they are. We got their back 100%. If there is an issue, I like to lean on the side of training when possible, coaching and mentoring. But they also know if someone has to be held accountable, we have to do that too. One of the things I tell them is, in my eyes, because they're new and they see themselves as rookies, they're heroes to me, just like the other officers that are out there. When I became an officer, the perspective when it came to law enforcement was still positive. People still like the police for the most part. Shortly after I was hired, Officer Aubrey Hawkins was killed in Irving, the Texas 7. People were focusing on the police then. Shortly after that, 9/11 happened. All of America loved all first responders. It was a time in policing where I found we were shown appreciation constantly. That's not necessarily the case now. It is harder now to be a police officer than it was when I became a police officer. The demands are more now than they were when I first started. The expectations for accountability, transparency, professionalism, that's new and it's improved. And you know what? For good reason. They're my heroes because they still want to do the job. You're working shift work, you're going to be away from your family, you can face deadly threats any day you go to work, and you may have people who are going to disparage you just because you wear a uniform. But they showed up anyway. That's amazing.
I've seen you take heat from the community. I've seen you take ownership when things didn't go right in your department. How would you describe the Fort Worth Police Department's culture today? And how, is there anything about it you would change?
Nothing's ever perfect, including culture. We could always be better, and we should always be working to be better. If you're standing still, you're moving back because people are going to pass you up. And I want us to be setting standards when it comes to culture and everything else that we do. What I mentioned earlier, I want officers who are courageous and compassionate, professional and personable. I want people who can come into the community and face a life-threatening situation, but then also comfort a resident who may be going through something difficult. That's hard. I mean, finding someone who can do one or the other, we can find those people. We're looking for people who will do both and do it really, really well. What I've seen in the culture, really starting with Chief Wyndham, the focus on community engagement, community relationships, really started to improve with all the programs he brought in. My predecessor, Ed Krause, really pushed the needle when it came to community engagement, and I think we're going even further with that. We're building on that progress, and we're trying to progress even more and more. But also it's about investing in your people. It's one thing to have good community relationships. What's the relationship internally? What is it like here? Do people want to come to work? Do they feel like they're valued? Do they feel they're appreciated? Do they feel they're supported and they've got somebody backing them while they're doing their job? It's a very fine balance to find both of those things, but that's the kind of culture we want to try to instill here. I always say it's about safe, healthy, resilient officers that can go out and make sure we have safe, healthy, resilient communities. It takes time to build that, but I'm definitely seeing it's going in the right direction.
Most of us don't know what the perspective is from a chief when we have someone shot and killed in our city or an officer involved shooting. Walk me through your end. What happens with you when you get this information?
So I'll usually get information from maybe multiple sources within the department, text message, phone call, letting me know there's been an officer involved shooting, and usually give me the location. And the first question I have, were any officers hurt? How is the suspect? And as soon as I know that, I put the uniform on, I get ready, and I go straight to the scene. When I get to the scene, my job is not to be the investigator, to be the one who finds all the facts. Our major case unit will take the lead on that. The first thing I try to do is find the officer involved and just talk to them. I don't ask them questions about the incident. I don't make them relive that. I just want to make sure they know that they're being supported, make sure that they're okay. Then obviously we prep for any kind of press conference we might have on scene. And then after that, it's just making sure the investigative units involved have what they need, make sure our wellness unit is reaching out to the officers that are involved, and making sure we're taking care of everybody the best we possibly can.
Police departments across the country are competing for officers now. Pay is much better. How do you keep up with bringing new officers in, making sure that they're compensated? What is that like for you?
That's obviously a focus for chiefs all over the country. And what I would say to a lot of the other chiefs out there across the country, sorry, because we're stealing a lot of their people. We're all going after the same pool of candidates. And we still see amazing people that are applying and coming into our academy classes. And our lateral academy classes, meaning hiring people who are already officers at other agencies, is exploding. And we have people from the West Coast to the East Coast, all the way up and down the continental United States who want to work here. I know part of it is, again, because they know Fort Worth is different than other major cities. The support we get is absolutely incredible, not just through our budget, but through approving tools that we need to keep officers safe, programs we need to train them up the way they need to be, resources to keep them healthy. And what I hope other officers are seeing at other agencies and people who are not officers yet who want to be, is in the Fort Worth Police Department, we take care of our officers. We're invested in their futures. We're raising up servant leaders, problem solvers, people who want to go out in the community and do really great work. I'm hoping that what we're seeing is a result of that, because we're seeing so many people who want to come to Fort Worth. We're talking about some officers with other agencies 10, 15 years, nearing retirement, and they leave that to come work for the Fort Worth Police Department. That's incredible, and I don't think it's going to slow down. It seems to be rapidly increasing.
What would you say to Fort Worth's new city manager, Jay Chapel, about the next chief that he's going to be responsible for hiring? What type of person does he look for? What's your advice to him?
I would tell City Manager Chapa to look for a humble servant leader, someone who puts people first, someone who's not out to be in the spotlight, but to put the spotlight on the people they work with, someone who has a heart for the department, the officers, professional staff, and for the community, someone who can work with a diverse array of people with competing interests, can work with our leaders in city government. And I think I would close that by telling Jay I trust him to find the right person. A lot of people know he was my boss when I first became chief as the deputy city manager. He was also heavily involved in that hiring process. A lot of people don't know Jay Chapa had been mentoring me for years before I was ever chief. We were able to develop a relationship, and he was willing to have hard conversations with me about what I could do better. He was willing to tell me what I was doing right and where I could grow, and not even really with the chief's position as the ultimate goal. It was just he was investing in me because he wanted me to be the best that I could be. I have complete confidence Jay Chapa is going to come in here and make the selection the right way, and he's going to choose the right person.
When people talk about former police chief Neil Noakes, what do you want how do you want that conversation to go? What do you want people to say, well, when Noakes was chief?
What I hope is they saw me as a humble servant leader, a man who made decisions based on faith, family, and friends. Somebody who was not trying to impress anybody, but was trying to make sure his people were taken care of. And first, that's the people in the department. Because I've got to first take care of the people who are taking care of people, or the job's not going to get done. But then also, I want the community to know we care about them as well. That we know how important it is for us to have really strong relationships where we can come together, even if we don't agree on issues, but find solutions anyway. I hope people see someone who cared.
We lost Kim Neal, who was the police monitor. We have a new one. When that came about, you were not chief, but obviously becoming chief and having to work with the police monitor. What are your thoughts about that?
You know, we were all very interested to see how that went. It was something new, so we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know how this new person, this Kim Neal, was going to treat us or treat the community, and we were pleasantly surprised. Once I became chief, I had regular meetings with Miss Neal, just like I do with Bone Seal Shokenby now, and I found both of them to be incredibly intelligent, incredibly humble, and very active monitors. They don't just tell us what we want to hear, they tell us what we need to hear. Unfortunately for Ms. Neal, when she came, it was right as COVID was hitting. So she was having to do a lot of things virtually. She wasn't able to be as physically in the space as she wanted to be, but she still made it work. Once some of the restrictions were lifted, she did a lot more community engagement as she had always wanted to. And really, whenever we found she was leaving, we got a little nervous again. We don't know what the next person is going to be like. I see a lot of the same traits in Shokenby that we saw in Ms. Neal, and it's actually been an incredible relationship, not just with the department and the community, but with our Police Officers Association. It's been a great way for us to have the kind of conversations we need to have about and with the community, and I hope she sticks around for a while. We did hate very much to hear about the passing of Ms. Neal. She was very well respected in her realm. A lot of people are going to miss her.
When you first heard the term defund the police, how did that hit you?
I thought it was a joke. I understand completely the importance of having different programs based on the needs of the community. I think those are critical to the success of any city. But to say we don't need police officers anymore, and really, Scoop, it went a step further. First it was defund the police, then it was dismantle the police. As in, we don't need, not only do we want you to cut their budgets, we want you to get rid of them altogether. If the people who are saying this, who are they going to call when they need help? They're going to call us. I think what we've been able to see over the years is that pendulum is swinging back to center, where even some of the cities who did defund their departments are starting to refund their departments when they saw their homicide rates increase by 100, 300, 500%. when they saw the crime spike even more in their neighborhoods because they didn't have the officers or the resources they needed. I am so thankful that not only did our city say, not only will we not defund the Fort Worth Police Department, we're going to give them some more money to make sure they have what they need. I think it was a symptom of tension that was in the community police relationship. I think that there were obviously improvements we could all make on both sides to improve that. But to defund or dismantle the police, it's absolutely absurd.
I've covered police all over the country, and some of the crimes that I've covered left me scratching my head. We will always have people in our communities that are dead set on breaking the law, committing crimes. What is your message to those people that jeopardize the safety, that are looking to break the law? What is your message to them?
So anyone that's looking to break the law in Fort Worth, my message is we're coming for you. And we want to get to you before you commit your crimes. But if you do, you're going to have to deal with us, because we're going to make sure you're held accountable, you're arrested, you're put through the criminal justice process and held accountable for your crimes. But I'd like to take that a step further. Part of that conversation is not only talking to the people who are committing crimes, but let's reach back to the young people who are in situations that might lend themselves to leading to a life of crime. We're going to take care of the criminals. That's our job, and we do it well. But what can we do to make sure a young child over here who is in the same type of situation this criminal was when they were a child, how do we make sure they don't end up being criminals? What do we do to make sure we're investing into them? And we have programs like the Handle with Care program, where if a child experiences something traumatic, we're making sure we connect with the schools, not give details, but let them know something traumatic happened and make sure they get the resources they need so they process through that trauma, so it's not repressed until it manifests in a very negative and maybe violent way. It's like our program, Operation Progress. We're investing in kids in the Como community. Everyone is partnered with an officer as a mentor. We're paying for the schools, their uniforms, their tutoring. They have case managed, they get counseling. We're investing in the families. And we've been doing that for several years now. And to see these children, some of whom were on a path to destruction, are now amazing kids whose trajectory is limitless. They're doing amazing things. Doing things like that to prevent the crimes from ever happening in the first place, that's preferable. And we are invested in the Fort Worth Police Department in doing everything we can to prevent those young people from becoming criminals one day. But for those who are criminals in Fort Worth, we're coming for you.
25 years is a long time. Is legacy important to you?
You know, legacy is a funny thing. Everything we do or don't do contributes to our legacy, whether we like it or not. But ultimately, once I'm gone, that's not up to me. Other people will determine what my legacy is. What I hope is that I have done enough to show my heart for the work, done enough to show that even if my decisions weren't agreed on by everyone involved, they came from a good place. I wasn't trying to impress anyone or make someone happy to get a job. I had the job I wanted. I wasn't trying to go anywhere. I hope the legacy, again, is of a humble servant leader who really cared about the people of this city, who really cared about the department and every member of the Fort Worth PD family. I hope they know it's somebody who gave their best. I'm human, I make mistakes, I get that. But I tried my best every day to do the best I could for this department and this city.
What's next for you? Are we going to see you pop up somewhere in the private sector? Are you hanging up the uniform and staying at home? What's really next for Chief Noakes? I've
had a lot of people ask if I was going to go to this department or that department. If I wanted to stay in policing, I'd stay right where I am. Okay. This is where I want to be when it comes to being a police officer. Fort Worth is the best agency out there, and I'm not leaving to take a job at another department. What I want to find are opportunities to stay engaged in policing, specifically with Fort Worth PD, obviously in a different role, different capacity, but stay engaged with Fort Worth PD and the policing profession in general. Some of the things I hope to be able to be involved with, anything having to do with officer wellness, with investing in the overall holistic wellness of our officers, with programs like AWA, with the R3 program. I want to stay engaged in leadership training when it comes to officers. I like the LEAD program we started at TCU that's geared towards up and coming leaders in policing who want to be innovative, who want to try new things, who want to set the standard nationally. I want to stay engaged with Operation Progress, the way we're investing in the community, investing in kids. I want to stay involved with our wellness unit. I could go on and on. I will not be the chief. I will not be the leader of the department, but I hope to give back in some way to the department who's given so much to me.
When you were chief, is there anything that you brought into the Fort Worth Police Department that I don't know about that helped your officers do their job, whether it's technology, programs?
There have been several. I mentioned some already. This partnership with AWA and the R3 program, investing in the resilience of officers, the Operation Progress program, where we're investing in kids in areas that may be high risk. That LEAD program at TCU, we're investing in leadership ability and the trajectory of some of these leaders who may want to be chiefs themselves one day. I'm so proud of what's happened with the wellness unit, how that's already grown, and how we're focusing on all first responders in Fort Worth, police, fire, and EMS. Those things really, when I step back, it's important to note, none of that was because I did this or I did that. So many people were involved with these initiatives to make them happen, both inside the department and outside the department. The common theme is everyone really cared and was really out for the ultimate goal of improving lives, not anything for themselves. So the things that we've been able to do like that we've been able to implement, one thing we're doing now that's new, we're providing ballistic protection in our police cars. There have been ambush attacks all over the country. One we had recently with one of our officers in his patrol car. We've got to provide that protection for officers. We may not be able to afford every single thing out there, but we're going to buy everything we possibly can that's going to help keep our officers safer. So anything that is invested in officers, invested in the community, invested in kids, invested in education and training, I am so proud that we as a team have been able to put those things in place.